Picture a high-stakes meeting. One person at the center of the table is practically vibrating, frantically gesturing, dominating the airwaves, fighting for every second of the group's attention. But if you watch closely, the room isn't truly focused on them. The group's eyes keep drifting towards the quietest person in the corner. We are conditioned to believe that taking up maximum physical space and vocal bandwidth is the prerequisite for authority. The assumption is that whoever fills the room owns the room. But watch the loudest person long enough and the cracks start to show. Forcing that level of confidence requires constant energy. They aren't holding the room's attention. They are aggressively chasing it, masking a deep insecurity that they might be ignored. Real power relies on something entirely different. It requires strict, unyielding control over oneself, rather than an exhausting attempt to control everyone else. Which raises a strange biological question. Why does the human brain instinctively assign higher status and a heavier, almost intimidating presence to the individual who is doing the absolute least? The human brain is wired to detect anomalies. In a room full of competing noise, a motionless figure acts as a psychological outlier, a question mark that the group feels a biological urge to solve by leaning in. When a trigger occurs, the loud archetype's timeline shows an immediate chaotic spike, producing an explosive, predictable reaction. Below, the calm archetype's timeline stays perfectly flat. They pause, process the information, and act only if a strategic move is necessary. That pause sends a highly specific subconscious signal to everyone watching. It proves that this person dictates their own internal state. External pressure cannot manipulate them. We plot this using the validation ratio, comparing the need for validation against perceived authority. As someone raises their volume, their need for validation skyrockets, and perceived authority plummets to zero. A calm person simply exists without proving anything. Relying on volume inherently broadcasts weakness. It tells the room that you require their approval to feel secure. Let a conversation drop into total silence and watch the room's body language. For the average person, an empty pause acts as a high-pressure environment. It feels acutely uncomfortable. Those lacking internal control will reflexively panic. They will rush to fill that empty space with unnecessary words, with nervous laughter or rambling explanations, just to relieve the tension. A highly grounded individual sits comfortably in that exact same silence. They do not view a pause as something to fix. They use it as a tool. This restraint triggers a neurological response in everyone else. Because the quiet person refuses to overshare or react quickly, the human brain cannot easily predict their next move. That unpredictability breeds mystery. Our biology hardwires us to pay hyper attention to anything in our environment that we cannot fully decode. Intentional silence exerts a tangible psychological pressure. It generates the tension, curiosity, and respect that loud interruptions can never duplicate. Authority, then, is a direct byproduct of self-mastery. It operates entirely independently from the aggressive domination of others. If you want to apply this in a high-stakes room, the first step is physical. Drastically reduce your momentum, slow your gestures, and speak significantly less. Next, observe the environment with absolute intent. By holding back, you force your peers and opponents to fill the void, revealing their own intentions, strategies, and insecurities first. And when you finally decide to speak, make sure every single word carries intentional weight. Only say what is strictly necessary. A deeply grounded presence commands any space because it is incredibly rare. It relies entirely on its own self-sustaining internal structure, rather than feeding off the energy of the crowd. Abandoning the need to be heard removes the primary vector of social insecurity. Your presence becomes a tangible weight others naturally respect.